What if you had a playbook that let you literally bend the financial markets to your will? Well, today we're cracking open that very guide and exploring how the ultra-wealthy can play by a completely different set of rules.
You know the old saying, there's no free lunch on Wall Street? But what if there is? You just have to be rich enough to buy the whole restaurant. This is a world where you don't just play the market, you can actually become the market.
Okay, so let's imagine for a second you've just become a billionaire. Welcome to the Inner Circle. This is your confidential briefing, and Chapter 1 starts right now.
Now, your first move isn't what you think. It's not a trade. It's a story. Before you even touch a stock, you have to control the narrative that surrounds it. You've got to control what people believe.
And it all starts with a classic for a reason, the pump and dump. First, you quietly buy up a ton of some forgotten low-priced asset. Step 2, you become its biggest fan, using every channel you can to create a frenzy. And then, for the finale, just as everyone else rushes in, convinced they found the next big thing, you sell your entire position to them and walk away.
And listen, this isn't just some old-school theory. It's happening all the time, especially in the Wild West of crypto. I mean, just look at the infamous Squid Game token, a perfect and brutal example. It shot to the moon and then collapsed to zero. Poof. The creators cashed out, leaving thousands holding worthless tokens.
But why go through all the trouble of building hype when you can just make something up? Imagine filing an official-looking but completely fake takeover bid for a major company like Avon. It sounds crazy, I know, but this actually happened.
And the effect was instantaneous. The stock shot up 20% in a matter of minutes, so fast that it actually triggered a trading halt. But by the time anyone figured out it was all a lie, the people who planted the story, they were long gone, profits in hand.
So what if you want a stock to go down? Well, you just run the playbook in reverse. It's called short and distort. First, you bet against the company by shorting its stock. Then, you unleash a storm of negative, scary reports to create panic, drive that price into the ground, and cash in on the collapse. All right, let's get into the next chapter, because this is where things get really interesting. We're moving beyond just shaping what the public thinks and into the guts of the financial system itself, exploiting hidden mechanics that are totally invisible to the average person.
Let's go a layer deeper. I want you to really think about this. What if you could buy or sell millions of shares of a company without a single person in the public market knowing you were doing it? What if you could operate in total darkness?
Well, you can. They're called dark pools. These are basically private, invitation-only stock exchanges for the big players. And don't think this is some small niche corner of the market. Over half of all U.S. stock trades now happen here, completely off the public books.
I mean, just think about that for a second. Public exchanges like the New York Stock Exchange are built on the idea of transparency. Everyone can see the buy and sell orders. It's supposed to be a level playing field. Dark pools are the exact opposite. They are designed for secrecy, giving institutions a huge information advantage. And once you're inside these systems, you get access to this whole toolkit for creating illusions. You can spoof the market by placing huge orders you have no intention of actually filling, just to scare other traders. Or you can use layering to build fake walls of buy or sell orders to create a false sense of momentum. You can even create fake trading volume by just buying and selling an asset to yourself over and over again.
And if you think this is small stuff, think again. The infamous 2010 flash crash, the one that vaporized nearly $1 trillion of market value in a few minutes, that was kicked off by a single trader using these exact spoofing tactics from his home office in suburban London.
So that brings us to the final chapter of the playbook, the endgame. At this point, you're not just playing the game anymore, you're influencing the rules themselves. You're wielding the ultimate weapons, power and privileged information.
For example, as a corporate insider, you can manipulate your own company's story through accounting. A classic move is called the big bath. You take all your bad news, all your potential losses, and you dump them all into one single terrible quarter. Yeah, the stock tanks, but now your books are squeaky clean, which perfectly sets you up for a heroic turnaround story the very next quarter.
But let's be honest, manipulating the numbers is one thing. What if you could go even bigger? What if this isn't about bending or breaking the rules anymore? What if you actually get to write them?
Well, the source material points to the well-documented trend of certain politicians having stock portfolios that consistently and sometimes dramatically outperform the market average. Often, these trades are in companies that are directly affected by legislation those same politicians are working on, which, raises some pretty obvious questions. And there you have it, the billionaire's playbook, from start to finish, from shaping public opinion to exploiting the system's hidden plumbing, and finally to wielding actual insider power. Now let's talk about why you needed to see all of this.
So why is any of this important? I mean, let's be real. You're not a billionaire and you're not going to be using these tactics. So what's the point of learning about them?
The point of this whole explainer isn't to teach you how to do these tricks. It's to give you the vaccine against them. It's about helping you recognize the signs so you can spot when a stock's sudden popularity seems a little unnatural, or so you can question a news story that just feels too good or too bad to be true. It's about understanding that the game isn't always what it seems.
Our source material really hits the nail on the head with this metaphor. Knowing these strategies exist is your single best defense, because when you know how the magic trick works, you're a lot less likely to be fooled by it. The real question is, now that you can see the strings, what will you do when you see them being pulled?